Today's video, we're going to be having a look at the Star Ace 300 Queen Gorgo 1/6 scale collectible action figure. Queen Gorgo was portrayed by actress Lena Headey in the 2006 theatrical release of 300. Of course, many fans would also recognize this actress. Sticking with the theme of royalty, after all, she was also character Cersei Lannister in the ongoing series Game of Thrones. The figure stands, taking the tape measure, approximately 11.5 inches in height. She comes included with this oval-shaped display base that features the 300 and blood splattered across it. Really simple and yet effective display base. She does also utilize a waist clip, excuse me, that clips around her waist rather than using the crotch clip in which the figure is going to be standing on top of. I don't really feel as if it's going to be an issue, although you do have to be very careful of these little straps that are on the back. They are Velcro closured, so you can actually take them off, I guess, if you wanted to. You just want to make sure that you don't accidentally get the ringlet here. Even though they supply these little rubber caps on the ends, you don't want to make sure you accidentally snag it and rip one of these. But the display base, again, is very simple. It's not really too much to be said for it, but at the very least, I appreciate the fact that they put these little, the deco of the 300 written across the top here. Though Gorgo will actually have a couple of different outfits in the movie, they went to the default white dress, which I guess is really the dress that I would consider and think more so of when it comes to the Queen than any other outfit maybe that she wears over the course of the movie. The dress is very simplistic. In fact, it's just a series of drapings, if you will, drapings of this white fabric. And as you can see, then the harnesses or the straps is what basically keeps the dress all together, prevents the dress from falling off. The dress, as you can see, if I just move that to the side, it has a Velcro closure, two Velcro closures on the back area here. Theoretically, you could take it off. I don't really know why you would necessarily want to. Theoretically, you could take the dress, I suppose, off if you wanted to, but I could just imagine it probably more heartache to get it back on, because of the fact that you have to kind of wrap everything around her and then you have to strap everything in, that it just makes sense just to leave it be. The fabric is very simplistic, but it has some actual little lines and stuff that they've added into it, so it looks like it's been handcrafted fabric, something, very dated. She has this one long strap, one long cord of fabric here, and it also has a little snap closure. Now, what you can also do is you can have her holding the fabric, which I had at the beginning of this review. Kind of just drape the fabric around like so, and then you could have her just holding it. Probably not the best suited hand. This isn't the best hand for holding it. She does have a more gripping hand, where you can kind of have her holding the dress, the additional length of the dress in her one hand. As you can probably guess it as well, she does have leg articulation, but due to the nature of how tight the dress sits, basically there's very little clearance from probably what you can see here, that you can't move the legs out all that much. So granted, she does have a shield. Granted, yes, she does also have a sword. But if you want to put her in any sort of, battle pose, it's a little trickier to do it with this particular figure. If at the very least, you could have the legs in front of one another as if she's walking forward sort of thing, but you really can't do too much with moving the legs outward. Okay, so having a look at her face actually is really nice. I don't know if I would say 100% it looks like Lena Headey. There's some elements to it where if you slightly turn it to the side, I think I see a little bit more of it from the side than I do from the front. From the front, it actually comes across a little bit more like, trying to think of the actress. Is it Evangelina Lilly? Can't remember her name. like the head sculpt is really pretty. My only thing is, I don't know if I would say 100% looks like her. In fact, when you kind of tilt the head to the side, I think it looks a little bit more like her than maybe front on. They've got even like the little mole on her face here. One thing I especially love about this particular figure is the hair. The hair on the back, clearly you could probably see as well, is a real doll hair. It's somewhat actually the nicest curly doll hair I've seen on these figures. And then what they've done is, the hair, the real hair, goes to the back here, and the parts of the hair where it would have been in the movie pulled back, from the front here to the back, you can see that they've seamed where the plastic ends, and then the fabric starts. This part here is plastic, this part here also is plastic, and then underneath that is the real doll hair. It's effective. Especially from the front. From the front, and especially from a distance, it does look like it looks like that the hair is a seamless transition between the plastic and the real doll hair. Yes, of course, you can still see the line cut off right here where the plastic stops, the real doll hair starts. But I think it's done at a well enough and smart enough method because it naturally goes with the way that the hairstyle goes. So the hair's being pulled back. I think it's quite effective, really. Moving from the head down the body makes use of a rubber frame. Now we've seen this before with Starries. A couple actually figures that we've just done recently, looked at on this channel recently, have utilized the rubber frame. And I think it's successful. The one thing I would say about using rubber frames, as good as the fact that you get a seamless body, I mean, you see absolutely no joints whatsoever. So like the elbow joint is concealed, the shoulder joint is concealed and whatnot. The only downside though is the paint on the face is good. You get the freckles, you get the imperfections to the flesh. It carries itself to around the neck area where I get the same sort of like freckled treatment. And then unfortunately it gets very bare and vacant when it gets to the arms, the chest, and I guess to some extent the legs, but the legs are really going to be covered by fabric. Gorgo, specifically Lena, has all these little freckles and different gradients of flesh tone on her chest specifically. You can see freckles and stuff like that when you look at art or images actually from the movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't see it here because it's just using the rubber body as something that perhaps Star Ace could consider moving forward with. They're going to continue to use the rubber body. I like the rubber bodies personally. Of course, there's always the problem that if a joint breaks inside, it's going to be next to impossible to repair. But I've found that the quality and the durability of the bodies do feel good on the Star Ace pieces, where they do feel like secure frames inside. I feel like the rubber also that they use is a pretty good quality. The only thing I would say is maybe going in and painting it after the fact, because it is it's very pale on the arms, for example. Equally so, very pale on the torso. Here it stops. I wish it would carry itself further down. Like they need to almost go in there and add the freckles, the little spots, and again, all the little imperfections that make up regular, normal skin should also be present here when especially when they're using the rubber bodies. Now, I don't know how easy it is based on this sort of material, how easy it is going to be for them to go in and kind of airbrush this, but I mean, it looks like they've started at the neck area. At the very least, I wish that they could have also carried itself further down as well. If I could be really overly critical as well, I do find that the chest is a little bit bigger, perhaps, than Queen Gorgo is in the movie itself. She's a little bit of a thinner frame, and both the chest and the arms, I think, are a little too big. But granted, that be the case because you've got the 6-scale frame inside. Of course, the rubber over top of it does make the frame a little bit bigger than if they had just used a 6-scale body instead. It's a little fuller. It's a little fuller in the chest area. Other than that, though, I think, again, it's a pretty good-looking Queen Gorgo. There's a little few hiccups here and there. Primarily, I think my biggest one is the lack of paint in the torso and the arms, because they do come across very, very pale. Of course, two other things that won't be the rubber is the hands themselves, the interchangeable hands. There's a slight varying degree of color between the shading done to the hands, and then of course you get to the arms as well. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it does seem like the hands are slightly darker shade than the arms themselves. Maybe again, moving forward, maybe with future figures, they could probably go in there and just add some additional shading and stuff like that. Just airbrush it, just so it doesn't have the, I don't want to say the cold, but the almost, it's very, very bare. You know, just some freckles, you know, some airbrushing, something could have gone into that as well, so it just didn't look like it was a completely blank palette. And then, of course, the other things, the other parts that are not the rubber is the feet. And she's wearing her sandals. There's the undersides of them there. The feet are attached by hinge joints, so they hinge up and down, and you can also rotate the feet back and forth. You also get yourself a bit of an ankle pivot there as well. But we'll look at the articulation in a second. Before we do that, of course, we're going to want to have a look at the accessories that come included with the figure. Okay, so she doesn't really come with many. She comes with a shield for starters. The shield bears some very striking resemblance to maybe some of the other shields that we've gotten before. I'm going to have to double check the figures that I have. I think the front is slightly different. Still has the gashes and stuff in it now, painted in this wondrous gold. You can also see like everything that's been hammered out onto the shield itself. It's a very, very thick shield. And it has the same construction on the back that we've seen also with the figures from Star Ace. You get the handle for the hand itself, the gripping hand, and then the forearm will slide through here. These little pins, these little almost tacks, I guess, if you want to look at them, or nails, are still feeling as if they're a little bit loose. Not yet having the issue where the strap here, excuse me, detaches itself. It has yet to detach itself from the shield, so that's one thing that's good. You can see that it's almost a faux leather, and then this will loop itself around the forearm. I'll show you that in a second. And she also comes with her sword. The sword is very, very nicely done, almost given a slight rusted gray look to it. It looks like it slightly varies itself in the handle. It gets a little bit more grayer in the blade itself. They've lightly shaded, or I guess lightly added some highlights to the edge of the blade here to give it the sense that it looks a little bit on a, of course, on a sharper side. Now, it's obviously not sharp, and this is plastic. She also comes with a couple of interchangeable hands as well. And those interchangeable hands are just a pair of gripping hands. As you can see here, she has just a pair of relaxed hands. These are going to be suited for holding both the sword as well as the shield. I will stress this, that be very careful with that, specifically the handle of the sword, because of these little extra blades, or I guess the blockers. I guess it's a hand guard that you do want to just pry the hand open slightly first and then fit the handle of the sword in there. You don't want to accidentally bend that or break that. She does hold the sword quite well, equally so when I show you. She does hold the shield also quite well too. I really like the look of having her with both shield and sword in hand, as opposed to just simply having her just standing there. It does look good. Unfortunately, though, with the legs, I wish that maybe that there was a cut or something in the side of the seam, so at least she could have brought the legs a little bit further out. She is very limited, yes, in the way that she can stand, but displaying her, of course, with the shield and the sword is probably going to be the route I'm going to end up going here. Eventually, I'd love to see Star Ace release this figure as well in the in that council speech dress that she wears, the kind of that wine-colored dress that's slightly purple, slightly almost like a burgundy color, and it's got some great gold accents to it. Love to see them also release that particular figure, or that figure in that outfit as well. I guess for Queen Gorgo, you probably tend to think more so this dress, but I mean, really, she does have several different outfits that she has over the course of the movie that I really would love to see Star Ace do more releases of her. Maybe they could do some slight variations to the head sculpt, maybe giving her a slightly open mouth, for example, to of course separate the fact that you wouldn't want to just get the exact same figure in a different outfit. But I think that there's potential for them to release additional versions of Queen Gorgo as she appears throughout the course of 300. So let's have a look at her posability. Her head rotates all the way around. I just want to take her head off for a second just to show you something. Be mindful, of course, the earrings on the sides, you wouldn't want those to break off, but I want to show you just how everything is connected. Because this is a rubber frame over top of an existing body, she does have just like this metal ball joint on the top. In fact, the same thing is for her arms as well. Take the arms off. You can see how everything comes together. So likely what it is just a metal rod that comes down here, and then there's individual hinges where all the posability would lie on a standard figure. So even though it's not technically a body underneath here, if in fact it's probably a hinge, and then just metal posts, metal running down here, and then you've got like an ab crunch and stuff like that in there. So I just wanted to show you guys how everything kind of comes together for the figure, and at least the mechanics of the figure. Go ahead and put the head back on. So because she has the ball joint, let's take it off again. There it is right there. You can kind of understand the posability and lack thereof that she has. So her head rotates technically all the way around, hinges slightly up and down, but it doesn't seem as if she's got a secondary joint here. Like you can't bend the neck forward or back or anything like that. You're only really subjected to the ball joint that is attaching the neck currently to the head. Again, you get enough motion out of it, but you don't get the forward and back hinge. Normally there would be, again, that little secondary ball joint here. Ultimately, you're just getting this in the head. The torso, by the way, crunches up and down, as well as she has a waist swivel. Let's go ahead and put her hand back in the socket. There we go. Arms hinge outward to about there. Anything after the fact, I do feel like I'm starting to hit resistance, so I wouldn't want to move the arms any further out than that. The arms do hinge forward as well as back. She has a bend at the elbow. Can't really rotate it as much because, well, as you're rotating, you're really just turning the rubber outer body. And because of the hands, let me just take those off again. As you can see, it's just a metal ball joint. So the hands rotate all the way around, and you can also hinge them back and forth as well. They become slightly disjointed from the rest of the arm as you tilt the hand forward and back, but you get full range of motion on the hand. Already discussed this. As you can see, the legs, I'm just going to move this dress out of the way here. The legs are, if I can just bring the legs up slightly, you can see even that they've sculpted in the legs, complete with the little kneecaps. So you do have the bend at the knee. Again, the legs do hinge outward, but because of the tight nature of the dress, you're not going to be able to move it out too much. And the feet, unlike the hands, the feet have much more posability options there. So you can hinge the foot back and forth. You rotate the feet all the way around. Sometimes it does dislodge the foot from the peg. Doesn't seem like she's got an ankle pivot. I guess you could technically try to rotate the foot around so that you have the ankle pivot, but you would have the foot forward. And there are the feet. One last thing I wanted to show you with the extra draping that comes out from her dress. As you remember, it had a little snap here. What you can also do with the snap is you can fit it around her hand and close it back up. This allows the figure to get a good grasp of it so it's not going to drape and fall itself off the arm. So you can actually display the figure if you wanted to, like that, and then just have the draped dress snapping itself around the hand like that. It's actually really effective. Smart that they used snaps as well, as opposed to just relying on hoping that you could drape it around the arm and it wasn't just going to slide itself back off. So I do really like that. Online sites currently have the 6-scale figure release of Queen Gorgo slated for a March to April 2018 release. So as it stands right now, while you guys are watching this video, she's currently on pre-order if you are interested to pick her up. The price point on her is, I think, is going to be a little over $200, so it's at a reasonable price point. I do like this figure. I think it turned out quite well. It's using, again, the rubber bodies, which I know some people are a little apprehensive about, but I do feel like it's a very strong feeling figure. It doesn't feel like it's a fragile figure that I have to be too worrisome with. The costume, as simplistic as it is, I think comes across quite well. She doesn't have a whole lot in the way of accessories, but I think the accessories that she comes included with are crucial. Maybe they could have given her an alternate dress, for example, that you could have changed her out from. I haven't really entertained the idea of trying to take this dress off, so I really don't know how complicated it would be. Say, for example, if there was a dress change, if you wanted to change it out. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they didn't give you the alternate, like a couple of alternate outfits that she could wear, for example. Head sculpt is good. Don't know if I would say 100% it looks like Queen Gorgo, but I think for the most part, especially from side angles, I think it's a pretty good likeness for her. I especially really like the hair. That's one of my favorite aspects of this figure, which I know I alluded to or said earlier into this review. I really like the hair, and I love how it transitioned from the plastic to the real doll hair. I think it's one of the more successful transitions between plastic and real doll hair. The body, again, going back to that, it's using the rubber body. So unfortunately, it's a little on the pale side. Maybe if they had gone in and added some additional freckles. Because as you can see, like in the box artwork here, Queen Gorgo has, you know, like little freckles, little imperfections to her skin. I wish some of that could have resonated on the rubber body that they used for this particular figure, because it does feel a little on the pale side. But I'm really happy with the figure overall, and very much looking forward to having her on display along with her husband, Leonidas. Today, though, we were having a look at the Star Ace Queen Gorgo. This was the 1/6-scale collectible action figure, which, like I said, is currently on pre-order on most online sites right now. If you guys want to go back and have a look at some of the other Star Ace figure reviews that I've done, don't worry, there's a playlist on this channel that you can check out and watch at your viewing pleasure. More videos will be also coming your way, guys, so if you haven't also had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so. Like I said, more videos coming your way. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.